Dr. Jimmy Beasley, welcome back. Appreciate you sticking around so we could record the second episode. We are discussing Leadership Synergized with Dr. Jimmy Beasley, a man with a diverse set of background that includes as an educator, a doctoral EDD, as well as service in the military and now working in the private sector. We're going to hear from Dr. Beasley's experiences, again, as I stated, professionally and in his personal life. We had picked up Dr. Beasley in our first episode together. And again, thank you so much, brother, for agreeing to stick around. I know I'm cutting into your time, but it means a great deal. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I just appreciate you so much and admire who you are and who you are becoming on this earth and the way you serve your family and others. It's all positive from my perspective.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Kevin. I thoroughly enjoy having these conversations with you.
Well, hopefully those of you in our audience are able to find something that you can take away as well. Our whole intent is to share. For me, it's about sharing my failures. Dr. John Maxwell wrote a book about failing forward, and I like to add a fabulously in front of that, fabulously failing forward. Sometimes we learn more from our failures than we do our successes, and probably more often than not, that's where the greatest leadership growth comes from. But we talked about serving as a servant leader in the first episode. We talked about transformation. Now I'd like to talk about inspiration and influencing as a leader. Dr. Maxwell states that leadership is influence, no more, no less. And influence is a two-way street, Dr. Beasley, as I'm sure you well know. If you would, for the audience, share a bit about some of the obstacles that you feel as leaders we must overcome to ensure we're providing the right type of influence, the influence that we intend to provide through our principle-centered focus.
Yeah, so I think in this regard, the biggest obstacle I feel like that leaders face is that it's easier to pull somebody down to your level than it is to rise to theirs. So people are continually just trying to bring you down to their level rather than to rise. And it's hard for us to keep that mindset, to stay above the rest and to stay true to who we are and not let negative influences on the outside pull us down, and then allow the positive influences to push us forward. And I think that's where great leadership comes in, is when you have those positive influences in your life that continue to push you to go forward. I tell my kids and the kids that I coach and anybody that'll listen that we are a product of the 5 people we hang out with the most. And I believe that to its fundamental core that we are a product of the 5 people we hang out with the most. And if you hang out with negative people, then you're going to be a negative person. If you hang out with bad people, you're going to be a bad person. But if you hang out with people that push you to be greater at what you do and truly want you to be the best at what you do, then you're going to be the best person you can be. So I just feel like it's the most important aspect of what we do here is the influence that others have and how you allow them to impact you. And it's a slippery slope either way. And if you feed the good wolf inside of you, good things happen. And if you feed the bad one, then bad things are going to happen.
You bring up a great point, Dr. Beasley, and I'm the first to admit there's been times where I've had supervisors or peers or others around that I'm working with, associating with, and as I reflect back, I became more of what they expected and less of what I felt my true purpose was. And that's not a pointing a finger thing, but to your point, and this leads into something that I'm finding more and more fascinating as I reach this, I'll call it middle age, right? Close to the mid 60s. I like to call that middle age at this point, but I'm probably on the back half of the second half type of thing, or maybe I'm in multiple overtimes. I don't know. That's in somebody else's head, certainly. But I used to look at self-awareness as a one-time thing, right? You kind of, hey, I looked in the mirror today. That's who I am. That's who I am every day. But I've come to find out as I reflect back, but even just through this discussion here and listening to your responses and your comments in the first episode and what you just stated, self-awareness is an everyday thing. It's what reflection is intended to be every day. And while we have people in our lives for a reason, people out of our lives for a reason, we don't have to stick if the influence we're getting isn't what builds us, isn't what inspires us to live our purpose.
Yeah, I think and it's a not something everybody has either, right? And it's not easily attained. That self-awareness isn't so common. It isn't, and it isn't easy. And it isn't easy to be honest with yourself, and it isn't easy to look in that mirror and notice that you're not perfect, and that's okay. It's okay to, right? We're made in God's eyes as to not be perfect, and that's okay. But I think it's something that it just isn't common, and the successful people out there are able to do that at a high level. Take a look and not browbeat themselves, but be really self-aware of what you're good at and what you're bad at, and then try to work for those uh, to get better perhaps at what you're bad at, and then to improve on and to continue to grow in what you're good at, right? Because I think there's growth there too. And then the minute you stop feeling that growth, and you're probably done in that regard. And I don't think that's something that you or I want in any aspect of our life. I think we always want to continue to grow.
Yeah, and when I alluded to stick a moment ago, sometimes I have found, I'm speaking for myself, I have kind of stuck and didn't grow because, again, I was maybe working to be someone that I wasn't.
Yeah,
wasn't me, wasn't what God intended for me to be in that aspect. But yet I never took the time to be self-aware about it, right? And didn't reflect on that piece. And that kind of moves me to the next. The first L in the still leadership aspect that we discussed briefly, I alluded to in the first episode, is love. It's about focus on faith, family, relationships. And Joel Manby, a CEO, and he works with the Maxwell Leadership Group a bit now, but he was CEO at SeaWorld, was CEO and was part of a family entertainment corporate business prior to that, led SeaWorld through some difficult changes, in their marketplace, but also in some of their programming. But he wrote a book recently about Love Works, and great book, a nice read. And I credit Joel Manby for publishing the book and bringing it up, and just simply being able to tell people we work with, I love you, just to help let them know, that can bring such a powerful influencing piece. But in many ways, it seems like in segments of our society today, the word love just becomes a negative connotation, and it shouldn't be used. But when used in a manner intended through an agape approach, and just to, hey, I basically say, I'm there with you, and I'm there for you, and you're not in this alone, it can be a powerful way to inspire and influence others.
Yeah, so I think in this one, it's just in this alpha male society that kind of runs this world that we live in. You don't feel comfortable. People don't feel comfortable telling another man or another person outside of their circle that they love them, right? If it's not part of the family, then it's almost like we were raised to not use that word as men. And I think it's a reason for perhaps some of the problems we have in this world, the inability to actually love thy neighbor, right? I think, and tell them that and mean it sincerely, that you do love them and that you want what's best for them. And I feel like if you're true to that and you believe that, then you will build more relationships in a positive way. You will lift each other up, and then you will have a more fulfilling life. And if you exude that in your daily life, and the people I talked about, the five people that I've got grown men. One of my best friends in the world is a very successful businessman, owns a lot of car dealerships. Every time we get off the phone, I love you, brother. And it's a sincere thing, that just, I think men aren't taught anymore, right? It's not something that it's an everyday thing. It's actually the other way, and you start seeing it that some of my son's friends, when they go, and I'll give them the heart and tell them I love them, and it's kind of like maybe they don't even hear that at home, but they know I mean it, and they'll smile and they'll give it back to me. And I think that's a big thing that we can teach, probably more than anything, is that it's okay to tell somebody that you love them and mean it, right? So I think that's probably one of the greatest things that we've lost in the society that could be great to bring back, is the use of the word love in a meaningful way, across the board.
I appreciate you sharing that. I go back to last century, and I can recall when I was making a transition from industry into education, and interviewing for jobs, and individuals on those committees looking to hire me in the public school system as a classroom teacher. And on multiple occasions, a couple of three probably, there were dozens of interviews during that window of transition, but a couple three kind of gave me the focus that, look, you're not here to be their friend. And I heard that a lot growing up as well, as a coach. Well, you're not here to be their friend. And so in my mindset, when I started out my career in the 1970s, well, I'm not there to be a friend. But as you grow, I sure don't want to be their enemy, right? I'm there to love them, and I'm there for them. And sometimes I think our society, or maybe we look at it, and this is what the trap I fell into, Dr. Beasley. We look at it that when we love someone, and this is where Joe Manby, I think, did a great job in his book, Again, Love Works. It's a great read. Talks about when we love someone, we should be able to share with them the feedback they need at the moment, not something that softens or attempts to soften maybe what they're facing in that aspect. And it's been said, life is an uphill journey all the way. There is no downhill. And we need to accept that first and foremost in our self-awareness. But the ability just to love the kids we have in our classroom, the workers we have around us, our children at home, our family members, you and I, just to be able to share that piece, walks away with just so much to tell us again, we're not on this earth alone. We're not in this journey alone.
So the funny thing, and why I smiled in the middle of that, what your story there, I can remember doing the same thing, right? Going through those interviews, and then being successful, and then going on to the next step in that school system, and they say the same thing. You're not here to be their friend. But then the next time I would interview at another school or the same school, they would say, well, how are you so successful with the kids, or how are you so successful with it? And it leads right back to that. It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing in one interview, that it's like, okay, you're not, but then the next one, well, how are you so successful?
Yeah.
It's the same thing you said. Didn't matter, it matters, right?
Yeah, 100% it does, which leads into the final L, and that is just leading, being a leader. And I'm a huge proponent, something I've learned I wish I had in my 20s and 30s as my leadership responsibilities were growing and expanding. And it's all about living in our strength zone and beyond. It's growth in that piece. And I think, again, I've said this in just about every category, but as I reflect on you and what I know about you, and the experiences we've had the past 10 plus years, and they haven't been consistent, but from time to time we've had a chance to interact and work together and share in multiple ways. But you seem to always be working in your strength zone. How have you been successful staying focused on staying in your strength zone, which really means being uncomfortable, being comfortable, being uncomfortable?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting ride that I've been on, like I've said here, and I don't think there's ever been a time where I just, when I talk to kids or anybody, the first thing they're always, okay, what makes you a good leader? I've been interviewed a couple of times by students or teachers or whatever, and I think my first question to them is always, well, what does it take to be a leader? And I think at the core of it, what it takes to be a leader is you need followers, right? You need those people willing to to follow you and believe in what you're doing. And I don't think we're out there hunting that as good leaders. I think we're out there trying to portray our values, our belief systems the best way we know how. And we do that in a manner where people respect that and want to follow us, right? They want to be around that. And I think that's why I think the attitude that we portray, the values that we hold dear to us and that we live in our everyday life is what attracts people to that. So to be a leader and to get those followers at the core fundamental level, to get those followers, you just be who you are, right? And then the followers come. It just right. It ties everything that we've talked about here into one package. It's the 5 people you hang out with. It's the puzzle pieces coming together. It's the love and influences of what makes us who we are. That tie all of ourselves together as a leader and says, here, this is the package that you're going to get. This is who I am. This is what I represent. This is my values, and this is my core beliefs. And then it is what it is, right? Then at that point, you're a leader, right? And then people come to that, and I think that's where I've been successful, is just kind of being who I am. I hold people accountable for their actions, but I love them, right, at the same time. And I think that's a major piece of it. And I think they know what they're going to get with me, good, bad, or indifferent. They know my beliefs. They know what I stand for, and they want to be a part of that. So as simple as it sounds, that's what it is. It's just being who you are, and embracing those under me as equals, and their willingness to follow. It's not me. It's those that I get to follow with what I'm doing to make me who I am.
You know, that is so well said, and it really gets to my next point of conversation, but you've already addressed it, and that's what's the one big takeaway that we can offer our listeners today. And it is about being who you are. And that doesn't mean you'll be the same person tomorrow, because if you're using today to grow and to learn, and it doesn't mean, as I used to once think it did, you have to go to a classroom, you have to take a test or assessment. Just having a conversation like we're having, Dr. Beasley, can lead to so much growth and this is making me so much more than what I was when our conversation started today in that piece. So I love that one big takeaway.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think, and I don't know that it's kind of enlightening for me to do this too, to talk about it, and fulfilling for me in that regard, that I get this opportunity to kind of self-reflect, like we've been talking about this whole time, and take a look at it, and at a deeper level, take that deeper dive into this still leadership that you keep talking about and hitting home on, that what has made me who I am. And I don't know that I've ever put it that way, but I've known it, if that makes sense. It's there, and it's who I am, but I've never taken that deeper dive into it. And I appreciate you putting it in this way. So it's kind of been, a great experience for me as well. Kind of, cathartic in itself.
Well, again, I'm so blessed to have you here, and there's probably a little background noise. We have our first lawn care being taken care of today that I had no idea. But hey, this is all natural. This is real world stuff, right? We're just being ourselves. Basically, Dr. Beasley had to pause to let the pet out of the house. He's seeing the sunshine and wants to get a little warmth today. And I've got weed eaters and lawnmowers going by the office here. So hopefully it's not too distracting. But Dr. Beasley, as we get ready to close the second episode, share with our viewers and listeners, where are you in your growth journey?
Oh, I feel like I'm always trying to grow. I don't know that I'm ever going to be done. I don't know that I ever want to be done, though, either. I want to continue to grow and develop and learn. And John Gordon's got some books that I've been reading on just simple, quick reads. 45-minute read books that he's got in a bundle that I've been reading. I think that's an important part of any journey is that continued growth. And I think I'd like to say perhaps there'll be a time where maybe I'll be satisfied and done. I just don't see that I got it in me at this point in my life that I'll ever be done just trying to get better. And I think there's always that opportunity to grow. And I don't know that I'll ever know it all, and I don't know that I ever want to know it all, but I'll always want to strive to get to there, if that makes sense.
Well, it absolutely does. And I think that summarizes the passion and the influence and the inspiration, not only that you have for others, but you have for yourself. And, we talked about this a little bit earlier underneath the inspiration and influence, but Dr. Beasley, what I see in you and what I've experienced with you in my life and what I know others are blessed to have the opportunity that get a chance to cross your path with connections or working day to day or in conversation is just, you see the opportunity for others to grow, but you see the opportunity for yourself to grow in and through others. And that's a positive. And so many of us, again, just to hit up on some mistakes I've made and lost opportunities, don't go in with a clear slate, so to speak, when we have an opportunity to have a discussion. And by that, I mean, putting aside previous discussions or thoughts or opinions, whether we agree or disagree, because when we go in with that whiteboard kind of wipe clear in our minds, in our brains, so to speak, there's so much to gain. It's that freshness. It's that heart. It's those values and principles that are ready to jump up and learn at least one nugget from each opportunity to talk to another. And you've offered that to us here today. How could our listeners, if they have any questions, and maybe there's someone watching or listening that have had similar experiences, would like to reach out and have a chance just to hear from you or to learn a bit more, how could they get in touch with you in that regard?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Jimmy Bees. You can always follow me and reach me on there. I'm also at LinkedIn at the same level there. Anytime, I'd be more than willing to link up with anybody.
Well, Dr. Beasley, as we wrap up, again, much admiration, much respect. I love you, brother. I'm looking forward to nothing but greater significance and success in your life. And when those boys get ready to play high school ball, I'm going to come watch some games. You have to keep me in the loop on that. But again, from the bottom of my heart, I just love you, and I appreciate you taking the time to help me and join us here on Leadership Synergized.
Well, I can't thank you enough for having me today, Kevin. It's been a true pleasure from my aspect as well. And as always, I love you too, my man.
Well, thank you. And all of you tuning in and listening and watching, this has been Leadership Synergized. I hope you found something to take away to help you in your growth plan. And if you'd like to reach out more, continue to check out on our channels through YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And we're going to have more information about future Leadership Synergized episodes and how we're available to help you with your growth, your strategizing through training, through development, or through just conversations. Again, thank you. We're here. We're on your side, and we are your friends. Have a wonderful day.